Welcome to episode 73 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian finishing my 13th year, I found myself asking the question, where is the podcast that will help me do my job? I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, by my interview guests, and by listeners who contact the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I'd like to extend a very special welcome this week to listeners Beth in New Jersey, Jamie in Wisconsin, Cynthia in Texas, Jean in Virginia, Melissa in Connecticut, Laura in Kansas, Karen and Jody in Massachusetts. And Jody was very sweet because she wrote a wonderful letter and I asked her if I could share it. And Jody wrote, quote, "Thank you so much for your podcast. I love it and listen whenever I take my dog for a walk. I am not educated in library science. In fact, I'm a nurse. My children's school has no librarian and has not had one in over 15 years, but they still hold on to their library. I have taken it under my wing with several other parents. I want to make it the best I can with no education and was a fish out of water. After listening to your podcast, I have a little better understanding and don't feel out of water. Well, maybe the shallow end of the water. I know librarians don't care much for us volunteers, as evident in some Facebook groups tell me. But I feel too strong about reading and want the best for our kids. So thank you again for all you do to help librarians and us others." And Jody, it really just floored me. I was absolutely stopped in my tracks when I got your email. And it was very sweet, and I can appreciate where she's coming from. I am aware, this is not the first parent volunteer who has reached out to the podcast, and it is upsetting to know that some districts would rather have a room sit empty than hire someone. And I appreciate that this is a very sensitive topic, and it does involve budgets and a lot of school dynamics and politics. I think it's safe to say that all of us working in the schools have over the years seen what a group of parents are capable of doing when motivated to do what they want to fill whatever gaps might be in their school's offerings for their children. And I certainly would never negate that effort or somehow diminish it because the person leading the charge doesn't have a degree from a School of Library Science. I will also say that I happen to know people who have degrees in library science and probably would do better not working in a school library. So I appreciate also, Jody reminds me that not everyone who listens to this podcast is a certified library media specialist working in the schools. Many listeners are actually still in the classroom. They are working on their degrees. Many people who listen to this podcast are paras or library assistants, and in some cases, they're parents who are doing the best they can for their kids. So I appreciate anyone who would like to learn more about how to make a library program better for the kids who go to that school. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback, questions, and episode suggestions, either on Facebook, Twitter, or the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I will be sure to send you a podcast sticker. And I did find out, because I ran out of stamps, that the post office is open. And now for today's episode, badges, Minecraft, and more, and my interview with Jennifer Lewis. So, I apologize for the title, which seems a little scattered, but one of the reasons why I had a tough time with the title for today's episode is because, honestly, Jennifer Lewis is someone I've been following on social media for quite some time, and I knew I wanted to interview her. And I'm sure that I'm not alone when I say there are oftentimes people I see on social media, and it seems like they have so many different facets of their program, and I want to learn about all of them. And so the more I learned about Jennifer Lewis and we started to talk, I realized that I was really interested in expanding our conversation over the course of 2 episodes. So today will be our first episode with Jennifer Lewis, and join us next week and we will do a follow-up where she will be giving us a very in-depth discussion on how to use Skype in our library programs. And now, my conversation with Jennifer Lewis. Hey friends, I'm so lucky to be talking with Jennifer Lewis today. I want to welcome you to the podcast. And before we get started, would you tell us about your library and the grades you teach and what kind of schedule you have?
Thank you so much for having me today, Amy. I work at a K-5 school in the Cherokee County School District, which is about an hour north of Atlanta. We have about 950 students, and it is a lot. And I do not have an aide. I have some great volunteers, but I have no paid clerk. So we use flexible scheduling in our media center. I usually see kindergarten, first grade once a week, and then 2nd through 5th grade may not be quite as often as that.
Well, it sounds dreamy. As somebody who teaches 6 classes every day, all day long, of course, we're not doing that right now, but I'm very sad. I would gladly take those 6 classes every day, all day right now, but such as it is. Your district is growing. Am I correct?
Yes.
I have students every year we lose to the Atlanta area. I've talked to librarians in Georgia. They said our districts are doubling in size. We're building. I mean, how exciting to know that you're only going to be needed more.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that is very exciting.
Well, I will just say right now, I'm insanely jealous as somebody whose school districts are shrinking. So appreciate that. So tell me, I was so additionally jealous. You had a chance to bring your students in before the school closings and before the pandemic shut us all down. You know, that's something so many of us didn't get a chance to do. Could you tell me what it was like that day? I mean, what did you say to your students? What did you say to yourself that day before you all closed?
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have a little bit of warning. We found out at the afternoon of March 12th that the next day, Friday, March 13th, would be our last day. And at the time, they said for 2 weeks. So I did have some classes scheduled that Friday, and I contacted the teachers and told them that I thought that we would probably be pretty busy with checkouts. Could we maybe reschedule the classes when we got back to school? And of course, they were agreeable to that. And so then I contacted all of our classroom teachers and asked them to please bring their students in to check out books to take home. And we gave some of our classes some suggested guidelines, but for the most part, we told especially our older kids, just take whatever books you think you need to read. And we ended up checking out over 1,700 books that day.
You know, it reminds me a little bit of like on Black Friday when everybody's standing at the door waiting for the stores to open and everybody goes rushing in because like they're worried something's going to be taken off the shelf. It has to have been a very memorable day in your life as a librarian.
That's exactly what our counselor said, that it was like Black Friday, because at one point she came in and I was holding up books. Who wants a babysitter's club? We've got a dog man over here. And all the kids were rushing to get the books that they wanted.
I remember just, I think, unfortunately, my early days of COVID, I spent resenting a great deal of the things that were not going to happen, even if we were able to open eventually. And we were not given that day to, we actually offered our families an opportunity to come and clean out their children's lockers. But, and you know, we haven't done anything so much as discuss how we're going to get any of these materials back or the school instruments or anything that's out right now. We'll just cross that bridge when we get to it.
Exactly.
So tell me, you know, before we dive into today's topic, how are you supporting your school community? How are you supporting your teachers and your students during this just unprecedented place where we are today?
So our district uses Canvas for our learning management system. So I had already had a course set up for my 4th and 5th graders. And since we've closed, I've added courses for K and 1 and then another one for 2 and 3. So I've been using those as a vehicle to load resources for families. Any type of username or password that we have is in the Canvas course so they can access that. And then also, since so many authors and publishers have been generous in allowing us to use their books to record for students, I've been doing some read alouds. And some of our teachers have used those read alouds as assignments in their language arts classes as well. So Canvas has been a great tool. I've also been working on some ebook collections. We have, through the state of Georgia, we have something called Galileo, a virtual library. We have EBSCO ebooks that's part of that. And sometimes it's hard for the kids to find books in EBSCO. So I've been trying to find those and put them into a document with QR codes to link to those ebooks. So
yeah, I love EBSCO. I teach with EBSCO, and teaching our teachers how to use those permalinks and embed them into their lessons was the look on their faces when they realized what a fantastic resource. And another thing, sort of tangentially on EBSCO ebooks, about 6 years ago, I bought a $1,000 set of 50 states and shared it with my 4th grade classes. And invariably, a couple of the states got lost. And the teachers are like, well, when are you going to replace New Jersey and California? And I said, this entire set is on EBSCO. Once I showed the teachers and the students how to access full PDF versions of these books, I have yet to wheel that cart down since, because the students would vastly prefer navigating their research using a digital resource. Now, that's not to say about reading fiction, reading a chapter book, or even a graphic novel, but when it comes to just nailing that information finding with a digital resource, they love it. That's so cool. All right. Thanks for letting me go on that little tangent. So, I love that you've found a great way to support your teachers, especially because you are part of that LMS. I know some librarians, myself included, are not formally a part of the LMS. So we sort of go indirectly through the grade level teachers. So when I support my teachers, I'm sending them something to then build into their lessons they'll share with their students. So that's really a treat that you have that direct contact with your students. Tell me about Flipgrid and our school closures, because I think that this is a great way to get student voice.
I love Flipgrid. It is such a great tool for student voice. And I love watching the kids when they make their little Flipgrid videos in the media center. They act like their own little YouTube stars. They're really cute. I haven't used it as much during our school closure. I know our classroom teachers definitely have been, but during the school year, I try to incorporate Flipgrid as a tool into our lessons as much as possible. And it really does let those students who are kind of on the quiet side have a chance to shine and share what they have to say too. I have a Flipgrid that's embedded into my Canvas course where students can add book reviews and give book reviews to their classmates. And I've also started, this was actually the idea of my tech lab teacher. I have a dictionary word of the week station, and the kids used to come up and tell me, Miss Lewis, I found the word of the week, and tell me what it is. But since with her suggestion, I've asked the kids to make a Flipgrid to tell me what the word of the week is. So they'll look it up and then they'll get an iPad and make a little video to tell me that they found the word of the week and what the definition is.
Oh, I love that. It's sort of, when you're in your library, it's sort of a passive programming, something that the kids can do when they're not checking out books or they're part of your instruction. That's fun. Can I ask, do you just set aside a large set of dictionaries, or you just put out a couple and the kids can fill out a form typically?
So it's the big dictionary that they use for the spelling bee. The kids they've always been fascinated with that dictionary. And as soon as I just put up a little letterboard sign that says word of the week, can you find it? and they're obsessed with it. They love finding the word of the week.
That's wonderful. And a great use of something. And then you have to then explain why that dictionary can't leave the library because it's enormous. Yes. Wonderful. Well, tell me, you also incorporate Biblionasium, and I have never done that. So would you talk about how this program has helped you support your students?
So Biblionasium is a Destiny add-on. We use Fall at Destiny in our district. And for a small fee every year, I pay to have Biblionasium integrated into Destiny. So Biblionasium is kind of like a Goodreads for kids. So students can see when they search for a book if it's checked in or checked out of our library. They have their own little bookshelf where they can add books that they have read and books that they want to read. They can write book reviews and also send book recommendations to each other. And I get a report once a week from Biblionasium that tells me what student usage is. And I can also easily click to read the student reviews that have been written. So during our closure, students have continued to use Biblionasium. And it's been really exciting to see the book reviews that they've been writing and the recommendations that they've been sending me. So that it helps me know that my students are continuing to read and write about their reading.
Well, and I think what's important to say is this wasn't a program you decided to start this past week. You had it already in place, and using things that are built into your lessons already, things that are familiar with your students, are more likely to continue while they're learning at home.
Correct. Yes. We've been using Biblionasium for a few years now. We actually started using it the year that we dropped Accelerated Reader. And so it was it's not exactly the same thing. There's no quizzing or points, but it's something that kind of gets kids more talking about what they're reading and makes reading more of a social activity.
Well, and there is that sort of component of they can see what they've read and feel that sort of sense of accomplishment because it's keeping track of the things that they've read. Am I right?
Absolutely. My fifth graders love to go back and look at their shelf, and it shows all of the books that they've read since they were in second grade. So it really helps them track their progress as a reader. They can see, all the books that they've read and how much they've grown and how they're reading much harder books now compared to what they were reading back in second grade.
Well, and I think it's also kind of cool, just the fact that you're keeping a running record of what the kids are reading, not for our benefit, but for their own, because how often have I been wanting to tell somebody about a book I've read, and the only way I can do it is because I listen to audiobooks. I can go back through my record on Sora or my record on like Libby that we use through our public library, and I can see the books that I read, and I'm like, oh, that's right, and now I remember. So you have that like running record for the kids?
Yes.
Can I ask, just because I don't know, was it a considerable sort of investment when you made this decision to offer this through Destiny? I don't know how much it costs, and I don't know how it would factor into your budget, but is it something you would recommend to somebody who hasn't used Biblionasium in the past?
Absolutely. It's only $250, I think, for the school year. So it's a small fee compared to what we had been paying for Accelerated Reader, for sure.
Yes, having paid, I'll date myself. I remember buying the individual tests before we were given the option to subscribe to the whole bank of tests, and it was a horribly expensive program, and unfortunately, we just couldn't even justify spending that kind of money. But that's negligible compared to what AR was costing. This community of readers that you have, and yet you are so good at integrating technology into your lessons. Can I ask about your Techno Wizards program?
Yes. Techno Wizards is our after-school technology club for 4th and 5th graders. In Georgia, we have something called the Georgia Student Technology Competition, and they have regional competitions. So our district runs one, and students who place first in the regional competitions can compete at the state level. So, and there are scholarships that are available for high school kids who participate in the state competition. So we try to introduce our students to all of the different categories that are options for students to participate in, compete in at the state level. And so we kind of split our meetings up into those categories. So we have a week where we talk about internet applications and a week where we talk about graphic design or digital design, things like that. So we are really just hoping to kind of introduce our students to different types of technology that they may not have known about before. And sometimes students will find something and fall in love with it. And a lot of our students are considering, going into, audio production or whatever as a career as a result of being introduced to these topics.
Well, so you are the sponsor for this program. Do you co-sponsor it with other educators, or you just sort of did this on your own?
Yes, fortunately, I have 6 other teachers that I work with. Yeah, it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work to plan our lessons, to find technology that we can use that's approved by our district. Things change with technology. So a lot of the tools that we used during our club meetings just a couple of years ago, we can't use anymore because those apps have been discontinued or whatever. So it takes a lot of time and research to stay up to date on what our students need.
Well, and what an important lesson to our students that, you're learning how to learn, because if and it's almost not device specific, because you want to teach the kids how to do something irrespective of whatever device is in front of them. And so having that sort of flexibility in your mindset is really important. It sounds like a lot of work. Are you going to be able to connect with them while the schools are closed?
No, unfortunately, we have not been able to do anything with them. Yeah. So we're just gearing up for next year and we have a Canvas course for those students with resources loaded. So we've been trying to kind of plan for next year during our closure.
Well, and I think that you're in good company, because I think a lot of educators, whether you're school librarians or not, recognize that this time can also be a gift. Our disappointments, if they're manageable, we're lucky, but we can also use this time to look past it and be excited about what we will get to do when we return. I was really impressed. You have a great deal of credentialing, which I wanted you to share with us, because anytime we become credentialed with sort of additional training, it requires an investment of time. It requires an investment of money. So I'd love to hear about your Microsoft Innovative Educator designation, which you have. I guess it includes both the Flipgrid and Pear Deck and blended learning. Tell me about what initiated this interest and how do you use this professionally?
Well, my district is a Microsoft district, so we use all Microsoft products. And as you know, we are called on often to help with any kind of technology problem that any student or parent or teacher or administrator might have. So I feel like it's really important to stay on the cutting edge and know what's coming up and know what updates are available and what products are available. So I do complete all of the courses on the Microsoft Educator community. I'm also a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, which is an application process that Microsoft Innovative educators can go through and be selected to be part of that community. So I feel like that personal learning network helps me out a lot too. Those are all people who are up to date on Microsoft products. We know about updates and things like that often through our monthly calls before a lot of other people do. So that program's been very, very helpful to my professional development.
Well, and I think it's important. Librarians, we are usually the resource and providing so much support to our school community, our parents, our students, and our teachers. And sometimes I am looking around for who's going to help me. And thankfully, I have a PLN of librarians, and you have to create your own sort of the experts you turn to when it comes to your own professional development. So it's great. Now, it looks like you were able to travel because of this opportunity. You sort of opened some doors with your certifications that you got.
Yes, as a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, I've been given the opportunity to attend several conferences. And a couple of years ago, I went to NCCE in Seattle, and they had a day where they invited MIEEs from all over the country to come to the Microsoft campus. And that was just an amazing day. I learned so much about Microsoft as a company and their commitment to helping teachers and about their products that day.
Oh, that's great. Well, and I imagine it only gives you more, I think that administrators need to recognize what we bring as resources ourselves. We've got our room as our resource. We've got our the materials in our space as our resources, and then we are the resource. And so this just makes you all the more valuable to your school community. Tell me about you participated in the Adobe Education Exchange, and I can't even add to that. I do not have any idea what the Adobe Education Exchange is.
Well, I recently had the Adobe suite of programs added to my laptop, and I wanted to know more about how to use Premiere Pro and Photoshop and Inspire and those products. A couple of years ago, my principal asked me to do something, and I had to figure out how to do it in Inspire. So I got onto the Adobe Education Exchange and saw that they have different workshops that you can complete to give you more information about how to use their products. So it's been very helpful, and I've learned a lot. My district is also doing something this year called the CCSD 20 by 20. Our instructional technology specialists have started this program, and they're giving us digital badges for completing different technology tasks and different courses. So I've also gotten badges for all of those Adobe courses that I've completed.
So I'm curious, are you encouraged to include your badges with your signature on your email or your website, your library homepage?
Yes, definitely that. Yes. Yeah, one of the tasks was actually to set up your email signature. That was one of the badges that we got this year.
Yeah, no, I think that it does remind the email signatures can get a little ridiculous with all of the things that we add to it. And yet I think it's really important, especially when we're communicating with our families, that when we educate their children, we have also been educating ourselves. And as lifelong learners, we are continuing. There's nothing stale about being a librarian, and having some credentialing that shows the investment you've made in yourself is really important. So I'll be the first to admit, when I need to learn more about something like Adobe, I've gone to YouTube. And this is probably not the best way to educate yourself. But, I think it's too easy sometimes to go to YouTube to find some sort of tutorial on, I don't know how to use Google Draw. I want to learn to use Google Draw. How am I going to do this? I go to YouTube and I watch a tutorial. What made these trainings different?
Well, I think that when the company puts together their training, then they're making sure that you see everything that they want you to see about their product. They know exactly what to highlight. They know exactly what you need to know to be an effective user of that. So I feel like I've gotten a lot out of the courses that I've completed this year.
Nice. I noticed that your school is Common Sense certified, and I've only heard of one other district describing this process, but you are Common Sense certified for 2019 to 2021. Would you tell listeners, what steps are involved, and how were you expected to rework what you did in your library as a result?
This was a goal for all of our elementary media centers this year. We worked together to come up with a group goal, something that we all wanted to complete for this school year, and this is what we agreed on. So all of the elementary schools in my district are becoming Common Sense certified schools. So the first thing I did was went through the website to review all of the requirements that were needed. And so there were 3 major requirements that you have to complete to be a Common Sense certified school. That was learn, do, and reflect. So learn is that you have to participate in a couple of webinars. That was how I satisfied that requirement. And one of the webinars that I completed was a review of the new Common Sense curriculum that they have that's broken up by grade levels instead of grade level bands this year. So that was very helpful. And the do is to complete teaching Common Sense lessons to students. So you have 2 options with that. You can either do teaching 2 grade levels, 5 lessons, or 3 grade levels, 3 lessons. So I talked to my tech lab teacher about that. We're lucky enough at my school to have a technology class that's a special. So she taught some of the lessons in her classes, and then I taught some in the media center. And then, of course, the reflect component is where you write a reflection of how you integrate this into your school and what your students learned as a result of the lessons.
Well, and I have to think that your administration appreciated these efforts. It was a concerted effort by your department. It showed leadership on your part. And, your administration isn't left scratching your head saying, gee, I wonder what they're doing in library this year. Sometimes we need that sort of outward validation so that when people wonder what we're doing, we don't have to struggle to show them. They're very aware of the things that we're doing. And this Common Sense program, I have relied on, and I know that many librarians value the service that Common Sense has offered to families and to educators. So from start to finish, how long would you say, I'm just asking on behalf of listeners who might be wondering about implementing this in their own schools. What kind of time commitment was this, start to finish?
I think it took probably a couple of months, 2 or 3 months to teach all of the lessons that were required, since I don't see every class every week. And sometimes we had other lessons in between. So I believe we chose first, third, and fourth grade as our 3 grade levels to focus on. And we had to make sure that every student in those grade levels participated in 3 lessons. So,
wonderful. What was the turnaround time when I presumably you submitted digital evidence to qualify for this from Common Sense?
It's very quick. Common Sense has a very quick turnaround time. I'd say it was less than a week.
Wonderful. And a badge for your district to put on there. Am I right? This is more of like a building badge, or it's sort of like a blue ribbon designation. You get a building badge, or they get a banner they can put up to show their families at open house?
Exactly. The person who completes the certification process in my building, that was me, gets Common Sense certified educator status. Mm-hmm. And then our school gets the school's certification as well.
Nice. All right. I've got things I'd like to do for next year now. I do want to pivot. You had not 1, but 2 proposals which were accepted by ISTE 20 to be held in Anaheim this summer. To have 1 proposal is amazing, but you have 2. And sadly, ISTE 20 in Anaheim, California is in June, not happening. And many conferences were canceled, but ISTE's decided to push it till November, which creates problems for people.
Yes, it does. I'm so thankful that they're willing to reschedule, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend.
Well, and you're not alone. I think if you're like me, it's easy to say yes to something when our schools are closed. So the last week of June, which is when ISTE 19 was held, I was out of school. I didn't have to ask for a sub. I didn't have to arrange sub lesson plans. I could just walk out the door, make sure the kids were walking the dog, make sure that everybody was okay. But nobody missed me for those 5 days that I went to Philadelphia, I don't think. You move it to late November, and there are a lot of people. I'm sure you're not alone. I mean, I'm sure you're not alone.
It's hard to get out of the building when school is in session. That's definitely a benefit of ISTE being in the summer.
Yes. So I'm very sympathetic because I had a presentation which I submitted to ALA like last summer. I mean, we do this, 10 months in advance?
Yes.
I don't know if everybody appreciates when you present at a conference, you actually had to conceive of and submit the proposal usually about 10 and a half months in advance. I went to ISTE and they were already calling for submissions in August of that summer. And I know that's when I applied for ALA. My presentation got picked up and I was ready to go to Chicago. I had my reservations, and I found out probably about the same time you did that these summer conferences were not going to happen. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. So listeners, I am really excited because Jennifer has agreed to give us a follow-up episode with there being 2 presentations that she was ready to give in Anaheim this summer. I have asked her that one of her presentations have its own episode, and that is Soar with Skype, 10 totally new ways to use this. And I'm hoping you can follow up with us in a second episode.
Absolutely. I would love to.
All right. Terrific. So let's focus on one of the presentations you were going to give, and let's give it now. How about that? A whole new world with Minecraft, and you're using Minecraft EDU. Let's talk about how this works. Clearly not in the time of COVID, but how you use Minecraft EDU in your library programming.
Well, I didn't know anything about Minecraft until about 2 years ago. And my district started doing some piloting with it, just seeing how it was working in some of the classrooms and what teachers might be able to use it for. And then they started offering trainings, and I went to a few trainings, and I was asked to do a coaching program where a Minecraft expert worked with me to pick a standard and teach a lesson. And so through those trainings and coaching, I really understood more about the program itself and how beneficial it is in teaching anything where the students can build something or have an open-ended something to create. And it's just such a great tool for engaging students because kids love Minecraft and they love to use it. So I've worked with our classroom teachers, collaborated with them to teach different standards using Minecraft. One lesson that we did is our students in 3rd grade study Native Americans. So I worked with a teacher to have her students build Native American homes in Minecraft. And we had a rubric for them, things that they had to include to show how those Native Americans lived. But also, I used Minecraft this year a couple of times to make a boring lesson a little bit more engaging. So my 5th grade teachers wanted me this year to teach their students about guide words. There's nothing more boring than guide words. So I created a scavenger hunt in Minecraft where they had to start off by teleporting to certain coordinates. And then once they got to the coordinates, the guide words were listed. And then there were 4 words, one of which could be found on that page in the dictionary. And if they found a correct one, then that gave them coordinates to teleport to the next question. So kind of like a scavenger hunt to get to the end.
And friends, I do want to make sure you check out today's show notes because Jennifer has very kindly embedded a presentation that she has given on Minecraft EDU, and I'm enjoying it right now. It's very distracting, but I encourage you to take a look at the show notes today because I think that for somebody who hears Minecraft and just thinks video games, it's a very limited in the scope of what is potential, and the kind of participation that you're going to get with kids is unquestionable. So I included in our show notes your Minecraft presentation, but also a video that was taken of you. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience when you were videoed? Somebody did this for Minecraft EDU, am I right?
Yes. So that was actually the lesson that was the result of the collaboration with the coach, the Minecraft coach. So we selected first graders to work with, and one of their standards is about light. And so we showed them a brain pop video about artificial and natural light. And then students went through the Minecraft world, and kind of built on their knowledge of artificial and natural light as they went through the world. So it started off very simple, where they would just flip a switch to turn on a lamp. And then they had to create their own circuits, and then they had to build a house that had light in it. Yeah. So it was great. The kids were so engaged the whole time. And what I love is it's not just your high students that can benefit from this. They're all engaged when you're using Minecraft.
Well, and to ask an obvious question, how well versed were you with Minecraft when you took this on? Did you come in this cold, not knowing? I don't know what kind of gamer you were or are now, but asking me to familiarize myself with Minecraft, I'd be starting off at ground zero.
So I would not consider myself a gamer at all. And I knew nothing about Minecraft before about 2 years ago. The trainings that I've attended have really helped me to learn a lot. And also there's a great course about Minecraft on the Microsoft Educator community that can teach you a lot of the basics. But you really don't have to be an expert, because your students are. So if you get stuck and you're not sure how to do something, there will be a student in your class who can help you figure out what to do.
Well, and what an opportunity for our kids to step up, because, giving them that opportunity to showcase their own, it builds confidence in kids when they feel capable. And especially working with kids that, like we do, they want to help each other. They aren't going to cast aspersions and say, "Look at you, you dummy! You don't know what talent." Right now, our elementary kids are so excited to be the person who knows what they're doing, and they'll showcase that. It looks like this is a great collaborative piece, also to invite opportunities for you to work with teachers in your building.
Yes, definitely, because a lot of our teachers are not gamers also, and hesitant to use Minecraft with their students. They think if they don't know enough to do that. So it's a great way for me to collaborate with them because I know enough that I can help them build a lesson and work with their students. So we just actually did some coding with fourth grade. There's a great coding curriculum that you can teach through Minecraft, and there's just so much you can do and teach with it.
Did you, I'm trying to be a skeptical, sort of ask the questions that I would if somebody were listening to this podcast. Was there any sort of initial administrative pushback or parental pushback when you said, I want to teach Minecraft in the library?
I wouldn't say that we have had any necessarily pushback. The only issue I think we've had is just students love it so much. They try to get on it sometimes when they aren't supposed to be on Minecraft. They're supposed to be doing other work on their laptops. So that's been a little bit of an issue. Now my district is kind of moving towards Chromebooks more. So Minecraft you can't access on a Chromebook. So that takes care of that problem a little bit. You can only access it on the Windows 10 laptops that we have, and then iPads. So we still have those carts available for teachers to use Minecraft if they want to.
I guess I'm also curious, is there any sort of transfer to what the kids are doing at home with their own Minecraft? Do you sense that what they're learning in the school application is carrying over into what the kids do at home with their Minecraft building? Have any of the kids ever talked about how what they've done at school has been something that they've integrated into their Minecraft building at home?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, some of our students have learned this year how they can take their world that they create at school, save it to their OneDrive, and then pull it up at home. And then work on it more at home, save it again to their OneDrive, and then pull it back up at school. So they are completing projects at school and going back and forth with their projects, their worlds that they're creating.
Well, I imagine this also invites an opportunity to incorporate some digital citizenship into your lesson building, because I will never forget the day my sons went to open up their Minecraft worlds. And my sons, I think, were 10 at the time. They're now going to turn 18 next month. But they were 10 years old, and the scream I heard coming from the basement, I knew something was wrong. They weren't physically in pain, but they discovered that somebody had gone into their Minecraft worlds and had decimated everything. I mean, sort of like a Minecraft tornado. It was like somebody had kicked over their, toy blocks, and everything lay on the ground, and they didn't understand how this happened. Their treasures were taken, their wolves were released, the pigs were running all over the place. And I said, "Did you give your password to anybody?" And that's exactly what they did.
Aww.
And what a horrible. And I said, but they said, "Mom, our friends wouldn't have done this." But their friends have big brothers who thinks this is hilarious, and I'll never forget it. But I do still share that with my students, because when you talk about how valuable your password is, sometimes they don't understand it until you put it into terms they can understand. They're not worried about their privacy being invaded. They're not worried about their credit cards being stolen, or their bank information, or their family photos for that. But their Minecraft world? Oh, dude.
That's important. Don't mess with that. That has happened in our building a couple of times. It doesn't happen much, thank goodness, but anybody in our building who's on our server can connect to someone else's Minecraft world. So that has happened a couple of times where students got into somebody's world and destroyed something. But it's been a very valuable lesson for both the class of the student who was the destroyer and the one who had something destroyed. They really understand the importance of not messing with someone else's stuff.
Of course. And have that recognition before you have something like a credit card or banking information. Can I ask, I want to make sure we talk about the badging that you do with your students. And I think this is great because I think both adults and kids can readily identify with the sense of accomplishment when you earn a badge. So tell us, what are you doing in your 4th and 5th grade classes?
Yeah, I am so motivated by badges. Absolutely. When our district rolled out our badging program, I was definitely one of the first on board. So I have started this year badging through our Canvas learning management system. We have an integration with Badger. So I created our badges using Canva and added them to Badger and uploaded them to my Canvas course. And starting at the beginning of the year, I explained to our students what the badges were and what they could earn them for, and just put it out there as something that students could participate in if they wanted to. It's certainly not required for them to do that, but the students can get badges for completing our monthly Makerspace challenges, for completing Biblionasium challenges. They can get badges for completing assignments using Microsoft products like OneNote and Sway. They can get a badge for creating a Flipgrid video and participating in Media Center Club. So this year, I think I have a total of 41 badges. And students, well, a lot of them are the Makerspace and Biblionasium challenges for each month. So as students complete them, they can submit them to me through Canvas, and then I can go on and give them their grade and they get the badge. So anytime I have a 4th or 5th grade class in, we always start by pulling up the leaderboard, and that kind of encourages them to see where they are and what assignments they could easily complete to get badges.
Well, and I think some other LMSs have a similar badging program. I know Schoology, you can create badges in Schoology. I know Sora, which we use with our students. They have a badging system as well. And, I think that it motivates people because they have something, I'm not even going to say tangible. They have something that you can point to and say, look what I earned. And so I think it really does, if we're going to have these digital presence on, if we have this digital presence, it is a way to identify something about ourselves that helps us feel good about our accomplishments, whether you are 10 years old or you're an adult like we are. I think that's great. I like that you can embed it in your current LMS and you're not completely reinventing the wheel. So before I let you go, I do want you to share with us your present, where you are on social media. I have a lot of listeners who automatically add guests to the podcast into their PLN so we can follow you and all the exciting things that you'll be doing while we're distance learning, as well as starting into the school year next year. But you have to promise to come back and do your Skype episode for us.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Tell us where we can find you on social media.
So I'm on Twitter at LibraryLew, Lew. And my Instagram is at Ike's Media Center, IKES, for my school.
So, Jennifer, I am so grateful, and I'm going to say goodbye, but I will say see you later. We are going to work on a Skype episode because I know a lot of listeners would like to learn how to incorporate Skype into our programming.
I would love to do that. And I just want to say thank you so much for this amazing podcast that you put out. It's been almost a year, I think, since I started listening. I started last year when I started inventory and listened as I was scanning books. And I'm totally caught up. I haven't missed a single episode. So thank you for everything you do to put this out for us. It's a great resource for media specialists.
Well, Jennifer, I am so grateful that our paths crossed. I'm sorry that you and I aren't going to be presenting this summer, but I can guarantee you that there are a lot of really appreciative school librarians around the country and around the world who have learned from you now and will continue to learn from you when you come back and visit us, okay?
Thank you. That sounds great.
I am so grateful that Jennifer was able to spend some time with us, and even more excited because she agreed right off the bat that she would be willing to come back next week and have yet another conversation, which she is sharing with the podcast. So I'm very grateful for her, and I know that listeners will appreciate all that she has to share. If you found this episode helpful, please share it out with your team, your PLN, and on social media. The topic of our next episode will be Skype in the library and my interview with Jennifer Lewis. I hope you will tune in.